I will conclude the intent to lead you to law, the reality that there must be an intervention somewhere. The cost of being wrong is that we go extinct. And of course, the reality of that is that you can't just wait and decide on something else. You can't wait to decide that, well, yeah, we were wrong, and now we are extinct, because there are some things that will not back up. You can't, raise the dead. I can't raise the dead. Trump can't raise the dead, you know, and that includes the dead earth. So we have to make adjustments in our ways. We have to create a sustainable world, and we have to stop population rise. So, that includes a lot of things, actually. Population rise is critically important, and we cannot enforce it unless we actually divide into groups. Actually create boundaries around those groups, as is tiny little nations, basically. And that gives us the authority, or the reality, that if you did not obey the law, that is, we all have to be responsible for what we do. Then we can select that one small group and say, until you obey the rules that we have set up forth as the laws of our world, you can't share anything with us, and we're not going to support you. It's basically the reality. And like I said, unless we divide into recognizable groups, we just can't enforce that. And of course, the best part, or the most responsible part of that, is to identify the fact that large armies cannot be created by small countries. It just isn't going to happen. So if we divide the countries into smaller pieces and limit the ability to join together as one big army or something, we can enforce international law much, much easier. And of course, that means that those who enforce international law must be the best that we can provide, and they must not be allowed to be more than a 4-year term, and certainly not more than 2 4-year terms, because that would provide an opportunity to try to create an organization that would overthrow us. And we have to have logistics in other nations so that they can't overthrow us. They don't have the tools to do it. And of course, that lets us demand that weapons of mass destruction will be removed from you. And that will bring about, the people that don't want to do that. And of course, that means that we have to convince them that you have no choice. We're going to, we have to save our world, and we have to save our world as best we can. And the only way you can do that is to actually enforce the law. And by enforcing the law, that means you will have to take the risk of what you have done, which is to create all the forms of chaos that are possible. So, we need to divide the property with limited capitalism so that it's realistic to each and every group. We need to, do even just the simple things like, you're in Sunbelt nations or states, just putting a water heater in the attic, or putting a collection area in the attic, which gets 160 degrees and hotter, is enough to heat your water. You don't have to use fire. Or there's, or just turning off the railroad engines. If you turned off all the railroad engines, the train engines that are just sitting there idling around the world, think how much pollution and how much heat and how much oxygen that would be. How many resources would you save? There are lots of things that can be done. Can be done easily and simply. They just, people don't do it because they don't want to do it. They want what they want, and that's all they want, and they don't want anything else. They scream winter. when in fact you're just making us all a loser. But the end result is that we are so many people, we cannot sustain what we are doing, and that means we're going to be extinct if we don't change our ways. So it's a decision, and we are all participants in that. You got to stand up and say, I demand a change, or there will be none. But it also grants us one other thing, that with 8 billion people, and just a tiny few leaders, actually, just a very tiny few, as a world, we can say, as a leader, you will obey us now. We're going to make the law, and we're going to enforce the law on you. And if you fail to do what the law needs you to do, we're going to replace you. And if we absolutely must, we're going to kill you. If you leave us no choice. So armies need to be told that, and leaders need to be targeted for that. And the reality of whether it's good or bad or indifferent doesn't matter, because it is what we need to do. 8 billion people staring at 1 or 2 individuals is not going to be without consequences. You have to obey the law. And you can't obey the law unless we make the law. So we have to make the law. We have to accept the law that we make. We have to be responsible for enforcing the law that we make. And we have to do what we need to do in order to make this world survive. It will not survive as you're doing. And while the screamers will all scream that you can't prove anything, the proof of extinction is extinction. And you can't come back from that. So you have to accept the idea that you actually have to think for the first time in your life, if that's what it is. You have to think, and that means you just can't believe whatever the hell you want to believe. You have to think about the consequences for what you do. You have to accept the fact of being wrong is being wrong. And we can't come back from a lot of that. We can't come back from nature mutilated. We can't come back from seed destroyed. We can't come back from energy released as an atomic fire. We can't come back from biological weapons or nuclear weapons or anything that the universities have done for us. And while they have contributed a little bit here and there, the majority actual reality of what they have contributed is all fear and terror and tragedy and cult. Evolution, of course, is a cult. There's absolutely no foundation for truth in it. There's none. Their primary evidence is this looks like that. What is that? That is nothing. This looks like that. So what? So you need to get your head out of their ass. I mean, seriously, get your head out of their ass. Stop being a cult. Stop being a herd. Just following along. Think for yourself. Don't accept leadership to any degree. Not me either. I don't want to lead you. It's a case of let truth decide. We have to let truth decide, because we are not capable of making decisions without truth. And that means we have to investigate the evidence and have to prove what the evidence actually proves, without the liars and the traitors and the failures and the thieves and the whores and everything that is wrong with this entire world, because the universities have led us here. And we're blanketing over everything with a university label. It's not necessarily true, but it's like government. It's not necessarily true. It's all their fault. Or humanity is not necessarily true. It's all their fault, because there are people in those things covered over by the claim of government and university and what have you that are at fault. And we have to peel back the covers and find those people and change their lives so that we can change our lives. We do have to separate hate out. We do, because they are the people that wreck our lives. We have to separate hate from love. And and the herd of animals that will not think, just want, they'll have to be tolerated. But hate has to be separated out so that we can, rule over our lives with peace and realistic ideas. No more fantasy. No more delusions of university. No more imagination of reality doesn't matter, or numbers don't matter, or anything else that they have done. It all matters. There are consequences to every truth. There are. It matters if you are wrong. And you know that. It matters what we believe, because you can believe anything you want. So therefore we must decide and accept what is true. What is true is going to determine whether we live or die as a world. Not just you or them or they, but as a world, because we are so many people, and communication is so rampant that one mistake here becomes a billion more mistakes across the world. It is we are at the crossroads of life and death for a planet. And of course, Trump and those who are like him, I hope he will do better. But his method is to ridicule and gossip and claim that these don't matter and so on. And that, of course, is wrong. That's just the beginning of war. That's just removing respect from those so that you can kill them. That's, of course, what every enemy does. But they create a reason to kill you. You're not as good, or you're the inferior one, or they're taking all our stuff, or whatever it is. We have to share, whether we like it or not. And we have to accept the idea that you can't just air condition the whole world, because it won't work. And nothing that you do actually works. Nothing. So stop poisoning the earth. Stop believing whatever you want. Don't let want decide. We need truth. We need to identify what is and is not true. We need to then understand the consequences of being wrong, and we need to make a decision for ourselves. Trump, for instance, is not actually elected by the people. He's elected by the Electoral College, as is the vice president. And that means that he actually doesn't have a settled job. He's not a government job. This is a outside of government job, actually. And that means that, if he fails to do what we need him to do, if he fails the Constitution itself, which he swears to obey, to be president, then we have to just simply remove him, because we have to protect ourselves and our world first. His claim that there is no global warming or things like that, of course, are absolutely wrong. And, and all the people who want to turn back time and get the world back that was 50 years ago have to grow up now. You have to grow up now. That world is dead. There's no such thing as going back 50 years. The planet has doubled in population. They're not just going to lay down and die. No matter what you want, they're not going to lay down and die for you. And you're not going to lay down and die for them. So then you say, well, we'll go to war, as men have always done. But we have to have a better solution than that. It won't work. There will be no resources left. Everything will be lost. All your children will die and be mutilated and eaten. They will. Because when the water is gone, the water is gone. No more anything to pump it. It's just gone. And killing off the entire agriculture and livestock system, which is what war does, we'll end up in starvation. And once you go past the point of no return, there is no building it back. You can't have the time, because people will die of starvation, so they'll eat the seed for next year's crop, and that means that there will be no next year's crop. And of course, you can't go back to just what nature provides, because the seed companies have ruined the seed. They have sterilized it to create a larger crop, and left only just a tiny few plants to be their mother plant, because that's the easy way. But of course, that just means that we're all susceptible to the cost of that. We can't sustain life the way it is. We have to plan for, what will come. Too much rain, too little rain.